So how on earth could a prayer from the 1800s, an ancient biblical prophecy, and the pen name of a world-famous author all be connected? It sounds impossible, right? Well, today we're going to pull on a historical thread that stretches across thousands of years, and you'll see how these three totally separate things weave together into one, honestly mind-blowing story. Okay, so picture this. It's 1841. A man named Orson Hyde is standing on the Mount of Olives, looking out over Jerusalem. And he's just moved. He sees a land that he calls barren, sterile, and he offers this really powerful prayer, just pleading for its healing, for life to come flooding back into this thirsty soil.
And this prayer is our jumping-off point. You have to understand, this wasn't just a casual wish. It was a formal, specific request that basically laid out a blueprint for the complete transformation of the land. It really sets the whole stage for what comes next.
And when you look at the specifics, wow, he's not just asking for a bit of rain. He's praying for the end of barrenness, for people to be drawn back to the land, for the major world powers to actually support this whole thing, and for Jerusalem to rise again as a capital with the new temple. I mean, he's asking for a massive geopolitical miracle.
But here's where it gets really interesting. To actually understand how this prayer could even be answered, we have to rewind a lot. Because the very conditions Hyde was praying about and the trigger for the reversal were actually described in Scripture thousands of years before he was even born.
So let's jump into the book of Deuteronomy, because tucked away in there is this ancient prophecy, a kind of divine contract with the people of Israel about this specific piece of land. And it's a prophecy that covers both sides of the coin, the curse and the blessing.
You know, at its heart, the prophecy was pretty simple. Moses basically lays out a choice: follow God's law, and the land will be blessed and prosperous. But if you disobey, a very specific curse would kick in. The land itself would wither and become desolate.
And this is where the plot really thickens. The prophecy says that a very particular person would show up on the scene, a stranger from a far land. This person's job was to arrive, see the desolation with their own eyes, and give a report. Their testimony was going to be a crucial turning point in the whole story.
And the prophecy gets super specific about what this stranger was supposed to see. We're not talking about just a little dry spell. It describes a land that is fundamentally broken, a place that can't be sown, that bears no fruit, where not even grass can grow. A truly grim picture.
So think of it like a lock and a key. The prophecy has two parts. First, the curse. The land would stay desolate. But here's the condition. It would stay that way until this stranger came and officially declared it so. And only after that declaration, that was the key that unlocked the second part, the promise of mercy and restoration.
And this promise is everything. It says that after the stranger gives his testimony, God will have compassion or mercy and begin to bring the people back and heal the land. So the public declaration of the curse is the very thing that sets the blessing in motion. So let's connect the dots in our timeline. We've got the ancient prophecy laying the groundwork. Then, boom, in 1841, Orson Hyde's prayer echoes that deep desire for restoration. And now, the timeline points us to this really specific window, between 1867 and 1869, when the next piece of the puzzle is about to fall into place. This brings us to the moment of truth, the arrival of our prophesied stranger. The stage is set, the prayer has gone up, and now the world is basically waiting for an official report on the state of the Holy Land.
So this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Who was this person? Who was this foreigner from a distant land who was going to travel all that way and give the one testimony that, according to this ancient text, would kickstart its restoration?
It was none other than one of America's most celebrated and cynical writers, Samuel Clemens. You and I know him better as Mark Twain. Yeah, not exactly the guy you'd expect to play a key role in a biblical prophecy, right?
At his report, man, he did not pull any punches. In his book, Innocents Abroad, his description of the land is almost a word-for-word match with Deuteronomy. He called it the prince of dismal scenery, with barren hills and ugly deserts. He was, to put it lightly, completely unimpressed.
And you have to realize, this wasn't some private journal entry. Innocents Abroad was a runaway bestseller. It sold 70,000 copies in its first year alone. So Mark Twain, our stranger from a far-off land, had just broadcast his testimony of the land's desolation to the entire world. The first part of the prophecy was officially fulfilled, and on a massive scale.
But wait, because the timing of all this is where the story gets even more unbelievable. It's not just what he said, it's when he said it. And it lines up perfectly with this ancient biblical concept called the Jubilee. So the Jubilee cycle described in the Bible is this special time of release. It's when debts are meant to be canceled and land is supposed to be returned to its original family. And what's wild is that Twain's visit and the publication of his book declaring the land desolate happened to fall right in the middle of a Jubilee period. The prophesied time for restoration had officially arrived.
Okay, now we get to the final piece of this puzzle. And for me, this is the most incredible part of all. The ultimate clue isn't hidden in his famous pen name, it's hidden in the name he was born with. We all know him as Mark Twain, but to really get what's happening here, we have to look past the persona and look at the name on his birth certificate, Samuel Clemens. Let's just break this down for a second. The name Samuel comes from Hebrew and it famously means God heard, and his last name Clemens is from Latin and it means merciful and gentle.
Have you seen it now? Let's put it all together. Orson Hyde prayed. The ancient prophecy said that after the stranger's report, God would show compassion or mercy. And who's the guy who delivers the report? A man whose actual name, Samuel Clemens, literally means God heard and merciful. The messenger's very name was the prophesied response.
So let's just recap this incredible journey. Step 1, a prayer is offered, asking for the land to be healed. Step 2, a prophesied stranger, Mark Twain, shows up at the exact right time, a jubilee, and confirms the land's desolation to the world. And step 3, that stranger's real name, Samuel Clemens, is literally the divine answer. God heard, and he will be merciful.
It is just an unbelievable convergence of a prayer, a prophecy, a person, and a name, all lining up across thousands of years. So I have to ask, is it all just a series of stunning coincidences, or are we looking at a history that was written long, long before it ever happened? I'll let you think about that one.